Good afternoon, Razorback Nation. We're back this afternoon, a little bit earlier, but we're still here with your Razor recap for this weekend. Same show, just a little bit earlier, covering the same topics. And we're brought to you by our friends over at Razor Pigs. Looking good, never felt so fun. Razor Pigs is the Arkansas-born brand, bringing some serious style to the golf course, tailgate, and everywhere in between. From high-quality polos to head-turning hats, they've got what you need to rep the natural state with pride. Founded right here at home and now run by a Razorback loving family, Razor Pigs is where comfort meets cool. So go hog wild and shop Razor Pigs today at razorpigs.us. And our friends over at Scarlet Letter, Arkansas's very own handcrafted spiked seltzer. You can check them out today. And if you are in Northwest Arkansas, check out the Core Brewery Tap Room. And you can get Scarlet Letter in all its various flavors, as well as their new hard teas. And how are you this Sunday afternoon, Austin?
I mean, about as well as you can be after that crap performance yesterday. I mean, we'll get into it, but I don't even know where to go with this team, dude.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. It's frustrating because, I mean, we talked with Blake the other night from Auburn, and he was kind of in the sense of, this is probably not going to go their way. Arkansas should kind of handle business here. We kind of agreed with him, but then, we also thought, Hobbs and I were talking about, this could be, one of those rock fight games where, both teams are going to come at it. It was a rainy, sloppy mess of a game. You limit Auburn to most of their points on field goals, other than one of Taylor's pick sixes. Defense shows up and gets a surprising pick six to, give you life and, momentum going into halftime. And yeah, it's just frustrating how, this was a tale of two different halves. You're thinking, okay, going into halftime, caught some momentum. You're up 21 to 10. And then you come out in the second half and, score 3 points. And so, yeah, to your point, like, where do you go with this team? Because we talked about it, this game and next week was probably your best two opportunities to get a conference win this season, and you blow one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so weird because in the past few weeks, Arkansas has played lights out 3 quarters, and they just lose in that 1 quarter. And then all it took was this week is they played good in the second quarter and they flopped first, third, and fourth quarter. Just absolutely terrible. And it was just barely enough to lose. And it's like this team, it just does enough to lose, right? This offense, it plays down to its competition a lot, especially when you're playing Power 4 competition, because there's no reason why Arkansas shouldn't have destroyed Auburn. Let's talk about rushing stats. Arkansas only had 63, and they averaged 220 something yards a game.
Right.
It was gross all the way around. And this is giving other teams a blueprint to beating Arkansas. It's like shut down the run.
Right. Force them to pass.
And the thing is, Arkansas can pass, but not without a complementary run game.
Right.
And it's just, it was bad. And literally throw away the game. 3 interceptions in the last 4 possessions for Arkansas, and then a fumble on the other possession. That's some high school type crap, right?
Right.
I just don't understand it. And I get maybe that last one because he's trying to force some things.
Right, kind of a last-ditch effort to, hey, I got to try to make something happen.
Yeah, and it's just, and before that, he was playing fine.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, Taylor Green was playing fine. And that's what I also hate about it, is that you see all these people on social media like, bench him. He had one bad game. He had one bad quarter, actually. He had a bad quarter. Awful. Doesn't mean that you should bench him. Like, take the entire season worth of work and put it towards whether or not you want to bench him or not.
He's not having a Jackson Arnold season where, they benched him and that made sense for them.
Right.
He's went off all year, and then, unfortunately, in this game where, like you said, you should have this in hand, and then you get in the fourth quarter, and you just need to drive down the field, score to kind of seal the game, and you force some plays. You heard Petrino on the presser talk about some of his reads that he made 2 games ago against Tennessee, one of them in this game, or he just the DB broke on his coverage and saw Taylor throwing that pass and was able to just jump right in front of him.
Yeah, and well, the thing is, are you talking about that the pick six?
No. It was maybe it was near the last one where you had 2 guys on that left side of the field near the sideline,
right.
and their routes are so close. You have 2 DBs, and the one just breaks off the outside receiver and jumps in front of the ball.
Yeah, so that pick six though, he was off. He was off target by a lot because you see Raylan Sharp jumping like a goalkeeper in soccer trying to get that ball, and I just don't know because I also I think it was the play before or a couple plays before where he threw to I think it was Raylan Sharp again. I'm not sure. But he threw to someone wide open in the flats and just missed him, like completely missed him. And I was like, well, something's off with his accuracy right now. And you kind of said it, that maybe something's wrong with, his knee is a little bit more hurt than we thought. And if that's the case, then yeah, you got to bench him because if he can't go out there and perform, that's a different story. But don't bench him because he had one bad game. Like if he's hurt, yes, he needs to rest and get, some rehabilitation. I mean, I trust KJ Jackson to go in there and play a decent game. If he needs to, especially against like Mississippi State. Come on. Like I'm not saying Mississippi State's trash. I mean, they've
I was about to say, you look at their game yesterday.
They're really close to getting them one. And that's what scares me about having to go to Starkville this next week is because they're going to get somebody.
Well, it's actually here, so
it's in Fayetteville.
Yes.
Okay,
because it's homecoming.
Gotcha. Okay, well, either way, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Homecoming makes it even worse because Arkansas is just sucked at home, and in homecoming games they've also sucked. So, yeah, it's I don't know, man. I think that Mississippi State is on the cusp of doing something great, and Arkansas is continuously falling, the other direction. So I would not be surprised if Mississippi State's only conference game they win is against Arkansas.
Right. And that's the thing too, is, looking at it, especially talking about Taylor, they asked him a question in the presser and Petrino said, oh, his knee's fine. And it could be fine in terms of he's healthy enough to play, but how much mentally is that playing in effect for Taylor is like not having as much confidence there? Because you saw him, not be as aggressive whenever, he just decides to take it and run. It seems like he hesitated, felt like it seemed like he didn't want to cut as, hard or as what he normally would whenever he breaks outside the pocket, and that he would just go down instead of, trying to make a big play. And, to Petrino's point, yeah, his knee might be fine, but mentally, how is he feeling about that? And also, you look at his game, he went 14 of 22 for 268 and a touchdown, 3 interceptions. But, we saw him all day. Like you just mentioned, he was late on throws, inaccurate. Like, I don't know what it was a culmination of, but yeah, not his best game. And I mean, to not justifying it, but, at this point, you almost felt like he was due for a bad game. How well he'd been doing this season. He had the fumbles and stuff against Tennessee, but it's still overall played a good game. This game, whenever it's working through the air, and that's what you're having to rely on, and then you struggle in that aspect. It's just unfortunate, especially when your defense actually gets a turnover and gets a gets a pick six for you into halftime, and you're like, okay, maybe something's coming together. But then to your point, you have Mike Washington, 12 carries for 44 yards, averaging 3.4, per carry. Taylor only rushes for 27, so net of 14. And Russell for 7, Maddox Laster for 1, so 63 total yards on the day. Like, it's just not the typical Arkansas offense we've seen over the past, 3 games against Ole Miss, or not Ole Miss, but like Tennessee, A&M. And so I don't know. It's like at this point, with the program, people were talking about, oh, well, at this point, do you just bring back Bobby? But now at this point, I've seen people talking about, let's just, blow up the entire thing, get fresh people in here. Right now at this point, I don't know what I'm feeling, but, something's got to happen. And I don't know what that something is. Like, what direction you go after seeing a game like this where things seem to be falling in your favor, and then it's the offense that lets you down, which hasn't been the case all year.
Yeah. As far as the Bobby thing here, well, we haven't, I don't know if you want to talk about it right now, but we may not have a whole lot of options
right
when it comes to coaches, because now there's going to be 2, 3, 4 jobs ahead of like verifiably better jobs than Arkansas. And that's
let's still hit that. Florida's open now. You think this was? I think this game just maybe extended it a week or two for Freeze. More than likely, Auburn's going to be open. Now reports are coming out after last night that what little support Brian Kelly had left in LSU's gone, and that there could be a change there. So there's LSU open, which bumps you to 3rd in the SEC at least between Florida and LSU.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they were talking about potentially a hot seat at Oklahoma, and they lost to Ole Miss yesterday. Depending on how the rest of their season goes, who knows what could happen over there. And then
not only that, like look at South Carolina too. Shane Beamer's kind of been on the hot seat for a while.
And then rumors yesterday about how Sark's agent told him that, or the report about how he could be interested in some NFL jobs. So you're looking at, potentially 5-6 jobs open if things worst case scenario, if you will.
Yeah, so like a third of the SEC just pop open, and you're not at the top of that list like whatsoever, because there's a lot of people who would argue that Auburn's a better job. There's a lot of people who would argue that South Carolina is a better job. I would not argue that, but a lot of South Carolina fans would probably argue that. And it's just, here's the thing. If they really want to do some damage this year and like keep up with the Joneses, they got to open up the pocketbook.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't see that happening when you have, 2 or 3 boosters here going after this one guy, and then another booster wanting this guy, and then, another booster wanting this dude. And then you never, and the thing is, whenever they don't get their way, they're not opening up their pocketbook.
Right. They're going to sit there and just be like,
well, they're going to pout because they didn't get their pennant. Yeah. So I just don't, I don't see it happening. The more and more I think about it, the more and more I think that they should have just pulled the trigger last year, because the coaching search last year was not nearly as crazy as it is this year.
Right.
And we're only just a little halfway past the season. There's still 4 more games, 5
weeks, because you got a bye week after next week.
Yeah, 5 weeks to the end of the season. And there's so much that could happen in those 5 weeks. So like all those people like that we've named, they could be going to other places.
Right. Arkansas's hot board, if you will, of coaching in that list that we've talked about, after these past few weeks, those guys are on these other schools' list too. It's not just Arkansas looking at these guys. I mean, you talk about guys like James Franklin. He's easily, to me, number 1 across all job openings as far as your number 1 guy on your board.
Right.
And then you've got guys like Summerall, Golish, Lashley. I mean, there's all these names that are going to be popping up, not just for Arkansas. I heard on the radio this week them a name for Auburn if they get rid of Freeze is potentially Summerall because he has familiarity with that area. And then they're talking about all these rumors of, well, Florida's open. Well, apparently, supposedly anyway, they're preparing to offer Kiffin $13.5 million a year to come over to Florida, but then that in turn opens up Ole Miss, and all these names. Like, at what point, it didn't look good yesterday, but at what point are you better off going with Bobby instead of all right, say you get turned down by Franklin, Summerall goes somewhere else, Golish goes somewhere else. All right, and then that's your top three, if you will. And you don't want to go. I don't think Arkansas can afford to go the coordinator route again. No. So, at what point does the cons or the pros outweigh the cons of bringing back Petrino? You know what you're getting with him. He offensively, for the most part, he can, still scheme up and call plays with the best of them. Let him go out and hire a D coordinator, and that might be the best route. But I don't know what the rest of the season holds, what boosters think, to your point, unless you can unify, if you will, all these boosters behind saying, all right, our best route, our direction to, help the trajectory of this program is to bring back Bobby. Let's all get behind him, give him the boosters, the support that he needs to go out and, pay a D coordinator $2.5-3 million and go get a really good one. Give him the NIL funds to go out and reload this defense. You're going to have to bring in a handful of guys on offense, unless KJ Jackson's back, you're probably going to go get a quarterback in the portal. You're probably going to have to get some receivers and other pieces. But, at that point, at what point is that your best option compared to, going with, getting into the GJ Kennys or, I don't even know who else to throw out, Dan Mullins type, level.
Right. And so that's the thing. It's like everyone's like so off of Bobby now, like, or at least the haters have really like chimed in. You can't really tell with social media how the fan base really feels, because people who are the loudest don't necessarily reflect the majority. Right. But at the same time, they're very loud, and there's a few more people hitting on that side saying, hey, you know what, this is over, but at the same time, like you said, it's probably not over. Unless they open up the pocketbook, I don't see any other avenue, because if you don't get those top 3-4 people on the list, he's the best option. No matter what, he's the best option. There's no one else better than him, except for those 3 or 4 above him.
Let me get your thoughts. Another name I heard thrown out there just late last week was PJ Fleck from Minnesota.
I mean, that could, I don't know, to be honest with you.
I think the big reason that name came up is because of Lindsey at Minnesota. Right. The Lindseys around here, big boosters, that would be able to, you would figure if he comes, your son's going to transfer back and be back at home.
Right. And I get all that. And that's a great story. But is that going to be a difference maker?
Right. Like, is that going to move the needle, as they say?
Right. Is that a better option than Bobby Petrino? At most, I think that's probably around the same. And you could probably negotiate Bobby Petrino down a little bit further than PJ Fleck. Or is that what his name is? PJ?
Yeah.
Okay. And at that point, why not go with the cheaper option if they're both similar, and then try to get, like you said, a good D coordinator?
Plus, you look at it too with Bobby, if you keep him, there's probably not going to be a lot of moves that has to do with on the offensive side of the ball. That staff is probably going to, remain the same for the most part. You may bring on 1 or 2 guys compared to if, you go out and get somebody new, then, it's going to be a whole new offensive staff that, you have to kind of pay, if you will, compared to if you keep Bobby. All right, he's going to handle play calling duties, so you're not going to really need to go out and hire a true offensive coordinator. And then if you bring in somebody defensively and let them build their defensive staff, you're looking at really not an accurate representation, but half of what it would cost if you went with somebody brand new.
Right. And, I'm just saying, is asking how Minnesota's doing this season.
5-3.
They're 5-3, but here's the thing. Their wins are against Buffalo. I'm not even sure what this is. Northwestern State, Rutgers, Purdue, and Nebraska, which Nebraska, they always try to make Nebraska good, but they're just not. I don't know what happened with them. Whenever they moved to the Big Ten, they just kind of fell flat. They suck. They played Iowa yesterday and got beat 41-3. Like, why are you wanting this dude to come down to Fayetteville and coach? I don't know, because they play in the Big Ten West. Do they still have divisions? I don't know, but whatever, they used to, right? And it's different from the SEC. The SEC West was always the best. It's the Big Ten East that's always the best. So he's playing in the probably the worst half of the Big Ten, and their bottom is very far bottom, right? Purdue, Rutgers, Michigan State, they're not great teams at all. And I just don't understand this infatuation with them, other than the fact that Drake Lindsay goes there.
Right.
So, yeah, it just, and the thing is, I'm not arguing for Petrino, right? I'd rather have, James Franklin or Dan Mullen or Summerall or Golish. I'd rather have those four than Bobby Petrino. But realistically, unless they open up their pocketbooks, I don't see that happening. And Bobby Petrino is just the best option, in my opinion, if those four don't work out.
And that's the thing, too. It's like, we have this doubt just because we haven't seen them open up the pocketbook yet.
Right.
You could kind of say they did with Cal in a sense, because, John Tyson didn't necessarily pay him directly, but he gave the money to the university in terms then they paid. So kind of, but not really. So that's what you've got to fight with. And I'm just saying, says here, no credible D coordinator will take the job under Petrino. His own players say he undermines his own defense. Check out Matt Harris and others. Yeah, I mean, there's been other times where we know sometimes Petrino doesn't play nice with the defense, and, it's more or less his way or the highway. And, I think for Petrino, he wants his D coordinator to, if you will, be kind of like a yes man, a guy that's going to come in and, coordinate the defense, but also do what Petrino wants him to do.
Yeah, that's exactly. I made that point last week or the week before that the whole, there was a little bit of tension between him and Travis Williams, and I just don't think that a good defensive coordinator is going to want to come in here because of how Bobby Petrino runs the program. So you're always going to have the good offense and then a mediocre defense. The thing is, if Arkansas had a mediocre defense this year, they win most of these games.
Right.
So,
right. Even the type of defenses when Petrino was here before and won 10 games, won 11 games, the defense wasn't just crazy good. It was an average, okay defense. And then your offense was able to come out there and just put up a lot of points, and your defense to come out and get you a stop or two when you needed it.
Right. And I'd say, put more of that money towards NIL and going out and not just NIL, but people to evaluate people in the portal and evaluate with recruiting, because that's where Arkansas's failed, is that sure, they can go get these guys who, on 3 says are good, that 24/7 Sports says are good, but then whenever they get to Fayetteville, they aren't good. It's because they don't have they have people to go out and evaluate, but especially in the portal, it's hard to do that with, such a little time between whenever they're in the portal versus whenever they get picked out of the portal.
Plus, if they don't have very much tape at their other school, sometimes they do, but sometimes you don't. And he had a good year last year, not as much this year. But you look at like a guy like Xavier Sori, didn't play just a ton at Georgia. Comes over, plays really well last year, but then struggles this year. So and how much does that do to scheming personnel versus, maybe being a little bit hurt, but we knew he had some injury issues, preseason, and so different things like that. So,
yeah.
And that's the thing with this defense this year is at this point in the season, you've got who you got, and you got to try to scheme the best you can because you can't go out and make personnel changes. And so, they're trying to work with what they've got. And, the big concern that, has been highlighted all year has been the depth of D-line, especially yesterday with Cam Ball being out due to an injury in practice. Not sure exactly what it is because it was reported earlier in the week that it was a concussion in practice, but then they asked Petrino about it yesterday, and they said it was a weird freak accident type thing. So, who knows what to think about that. But, that was one thing they said coming out of, spring and into – or coming out of, the portal in December, January, and after spring is that they knew they lacked the depth at D-line, but it wasn't addressed. They didn't go out and bring in, 1, 2, 3 more bodies. They said, okay, we think we'll be fine, with what we're going to do. And now you see it, we had Cam Ball out yesterday. David Oki was out. I know they mentioned, before the season started, you move Keyshawn Blackstock over, but, you haven't really seen him either playing on the D-line. You've seen Danny Solly get a lot more playing time, Ian Gaffard. But yeah.
Yeah, it's been mismanaged quite a bit. And there's a lot of people who want to put it on Cofield, right? I don't think he's been here long enough to really.
Well, because I think by the time they announced him coming in, that window had already closed for the first initial portal. You had him here right around the spring time, and by that time he's just getting here, getting settled in, so not really involved enough to, go out and help, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people I think people are just are mad and they want someone to be mad at. So there's a lot of people on social media pointing at him saying, yeah, he sucks, but he hasn't had the time to build, right? Which,
if anything, it's your check.
Yeah, let's be honest. It's the person who hired Remy Cofield so late. That's the person that you should be mad at.
And the same person that, pushed off getting a collective and, was against it for the most part for the longest time. And now you see Arkansas's behind. We've said that, a few weeks in a row here. But, I mean, at this point in the game, it's hard to play catch up. Yeah. And, I'm just saying has a good point here. He said the answer is get rid of your check, open up the checkbook. The whole hire Bobby Portis, Bobby Petrino, no matter what narrative is your check getting out of jail free card.
Hey,
let's hire Bobby Portis.
Bobby Portis might be the best head coach, football coach option we have left. Okay, that's how bad we are in the weeds.
Exactly.
Right now. Yeah, it kind of is his get out of jail free card. To be honest, I mean that's why he's wanting him to be. That's who Yurchek wants to be.
Right.
The next head coaches. From everything that I've heard, anyway, that's who he wants is Bobby Petrino.
And the rumor was too is that I don't know how accurate it is, but they were talking that Hunter was already sold enough on Petrino that if he had won yesterday and next week, that apparently he was ready to offer a contract over the bye week so he could get started building a defensive staff.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Right before the season's even over,
Yeah. Like, I think if that were to have happened, like, there's no way he would be able to stay in Northwest Arkansas anymore. People would riot. Like,
Right.
that just shows even more that you're just giving up on Arkansas football. Like, just who cares about Arkansas football? Arkansas basketball's out here kicking butt. Which I wasn't here on Tuesday to even talk about that. Holy cow! Or wait, Thursday? No,
Yeah, no, they
the game
played
was on
Friday.
So
yeah.
we get to talk about it today. That's
I
what
was
I'm
about to
talking
say
about.
we're going to end on a positive note today.
Yes. But the thing is, like I've said so many times, you cannot grow a program on basketball.
Right.
So and it's embarrassing. Like, I don't want to be Kentucky. I don't want to be Vanderbilt. I don't want to be that. And Arkansas actually has a history of being good in football. So like it's embarrassing.
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, it's unfortunate the way things went yesterday. Arkansas continues to look abysmal. The defense actually, I felt like, held their own yesterday, and then it was Arkansas offense that doesn't get the job done. The defense gives you 7 points. I mean, that's a lot compared to what we've seen the rest of the entire season out of this defense. So, over the past few weeks, we said, if only the defense could have performed better. Well, this week we're saying if only the offense could have performed better and to what we're normally used to seeing. And that didn't happen. Don't know why. Hopefully they can get back to it this week and prepare for Mississippi State. But, I mean, we hinted at it earlier. That's not going to be an easy task. They took Texas to overtime yesterday.
Right.
And I'm not going to lie, watching that overtime, not sure that Texas should have got that first touchdown that they got, but that's just me. After watching the review and everything, don't know how they justified it, but I'm not making
Mississippi State was beating the brakes off of them. Like into
the
fourth quarter.
14 and a half.
Right. And they were up by at least 2 scores in the fourth quarter, and then somehow Texas made its way back. But there's one story that, although it's not nice for Arkansas fans, but that whole Alex McPherson, the kicker for Auburn, great story. He's been struggled
all
cancer,
season,
right?
and goes a perfect 6 yesterday for.
Well, I mean, like before that though, he struggled with a disease or cancer, or I don't actually know what his ailment was, but he was like on his deathbed like a year ago, right? But then he comes, and then he's kind of struggled this year. And then if you don't know, Dave Portnoy, the guy over at Barstool Sports, like went off on him because he like pointed to the sky and thanked God because after he missed a field goal, and he like went off. And then for him to come into Fayetteville and just kick 6 field goals, I mean, his longest being 47, that's a great story. I don't care that, Arkansas was on the losing end of it. That's a good story. And just to throw it back in Dave Portnoy's face is pretty awesome.
What it was he was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, resulting in him having to undergo emergency surgery to remove his colon December 20th. And and he said it changed his life. And in April, he said that changed my life, and I wouldn't be here or even playing football again without that surgery. So,
yeah. So like it's a great story, and Dave Portnoy's a turd. So it was even though I did not like seeing Arkansas give up 6 field goals, it was nice to see him kind of get one back at Dave Portnoy too. So
yeah. So, not much else to talk about regarding this football game. Just a,
honestly,
terrible
I'm done talking
game.
about this football team.
Do what?
Be honest. I'm done talking about this football team.
Exactly. So, let's move over to a brighter topic in Arkansas basketball. What a game. I know it was exhibition. What a game they had against Cincinnati coming out from the get-go. I mean, you see first points for Arkansas is Trevor Brazile just throwing it down and setting the tone for this game, being in control from opening tip to final buzzer, winning by 28, 89 to 61. You have 5 different players in double figures. It's just incredible to talk about. And, I know there's a lot of hype after just one exhibition game, but if you watch this team play, they seem just like next level. Like that's the best way to describe it compared to, last year it was cool and great to see what Cal did with his team, the lack of depth and way he was able to battle back. But I mean, this year's season seems like it's going to be off to a different type of story in terms of you're starting off hot on top. You look at your 2 freshmen, Darius Acuff, 17 points, 2 for 4 from deep, had 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal in 24 minutes. And then you have Malik Thomas coming off the bench, scoring 18, going 7 of 12, 3 of 6 from deep, 1 of 1 from the free throw line. He has 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and it's just in 27 minutes of play. So, I mean, these 2 guys on top of, you look at your returners, Trevor Brazile, 15 points, actually putting up, what we saw him doing at the end of last year. 15 points, 6 of 10 from the field, 1 of 3 from deep, 2 of 5 from the free throw line. That's classic Brazile. Hopefully that'll improve. 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 blocks. That's, what do we hear Cal say at media days? He needs to be a guy that's coming out and having 3, 4, 5 blocks a game. Carter Knox with 13 points, 5 of 8, 2 from 3 from deep, hits his 1 free throw, has 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal in 25 minutes. And Billy Richmond coming off the bench and being just the energizer. He had several big dunks in the game, goes 4 or 5 from the field, misses his only 3-point attempt, hits both of his free throws, 3 rebounds for him, 1 assist, 2 steals in 23 minutes. Like these guys came out and performed.
Yeah. And let's talk about Cincinnati for a second too. Cincinnati, although they're unranked, they're not scrubs. Like they had an exhibition against Michigan, which Michigan's ranked number 7 right now. Arkansas is number 14. They put up 100 on Michigan. And I know it's an exhibition and they're probably a little bit, probably not as intense as Arkansas was because Arkansas pretty much played their starting rotation. I think what you saw Friday is probably what you're going to see a lot during the regular season. Right. I don't think he experimented a whole lot.
No.
So that's probably a little bit of it. But at the same time, to hold them to 61 after they put 100 on Michigan and beat them, that's quite the task. And it's not only that; it's that their ability to turn that defense into offense, and score whenever they're in a half court offense. We haven't seen that in a long time under Muss or last year under Calipari. Because a lot of time Arkansas has done really well in transition and doing the defense to offense. And whenever they get into that half court set, they just can't get any movement. They can't get any open shots. It's just not good. Arkansas did it all Friday, and with multiple people. And did you talk about Malik Thomas? Because we actually have a shooter now.
Right. That's what I was going to say too is, he came off the bench, but, that second half for Malik Thomas, he put up 7 in the first half and then comes out and explodes for 11 in the second. And it also almost seemed like the entire game, to have a true point guard and a guy like Darius Acuff that could score at will. He was just taking guys off the dribble and going to the basket. Malik Thomas as well. But the dish outs to Thomas, we talked about it. He went 3 for 6, shooting 50% from deep. I mean, as a whole, this team shooting percentage, 53.2 from the field, 40% from 3, and 60% from the line. You'd like to see that free throw percentage up, but I'm giving them a break because it was exhibition, first kind of game of the season. But if you can come out and consistently shoot, over 50 from the field and 40 from deep, I mean, that's going to help a lot. But like to your point, Malik Thomas, having a guy like him that is a threat on the outside, where you just didn't really have that at all under Muss. You had some guys that could get hot, and then under Cal, like last year, Nelly was supposed to be that guy, and just never turned out. But to have a guy come out as a freshman and have this type of performance, has got me pretty hyped.
Yeah, both the freshmen, heck, all three of the freshmen looked good. Really, I mean, like you talk about Isaiah Sealy, he didn't have a great night on the scoreboard necessarily, but he was in position to make a difference. He's just got
Cal says about him, all the intangibles. He just does the things that you don't really tell players to do or ask them to do. He just comes out and does it.
Yeah, and there was I don't remember when in the game it was, but he blocked a shot, like straight up destroyed the shot, and then went back, and I think it was Billy Richmond slammed it on the other side. Like having someone who can do that and is not worried about the stat sheet. They said he's 6'7". I thought he was shorter than that, but 6'7" guy who can play that three, that's just invaluable, really. Right. I mean, Arkansas's got a good team. We're saying all this to say Arkansas's got a really good team.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Final Four or bust, but pretty close, right?
Right. I'm just saying, jumps in here and says Hawgs did look good. If they can duplicate that showing against Memphis on Monday, that's a really good sign. And I agree, especially for a guy like they were talking about it during the broadcast, a guy like Billy that's from Memphis, he's going to want to have a great game. I'm sure, the whole storyline of Cal going back to Memphis, he's going to want to have a great exhibition with his team. And not to mention, like you said about Cincinnati, Memphis is usually they're no slouches either. They can hold their own. They usually have pretty good teams. And so it's going to be another good test away from Bud Walton to see what this team's going to do before they come out a week later for their opening game against Southern on November 3rd. So, but yeah, I mean, and then, I think the thing that if I had to say something to watch for is how this rotation is going to shake out between Nick Pringle, Malik Ewan. You saw it in this game. Pringle got the start, played 11 minutes, but then you had Malik Ewan come off the bench and play for 20. So I think as far as quote unquote position battles to watch, that would be the only really true one to watch. And, those guys are probably going to rotate. They're going to, probably alternate, or one guy's going to have a good night, another game, one's going to have an off night and the other will have a good game. That's usually how things will go with these type of guys where, you could go either way. Which one has the hot hand, which one's playing better tonight is the one that you might see get the nod to get more playing time that game.
Right. And here's the thing about that. I was surprised that Pringle didn't get more minutes than he did, because I thought he did well. I thought he defended well, and I thought he played under the rim well on offense. And I think more or less this was more like a practice for Ewan to see what he can do.
And that's what I was going to say too, is we may be looking too much into this. And, this was Cal experimenting in terms of not necessarily with the entire roster, but playing guys together in different rotations with those key starting guys, or not starting guys, but the key, like, let's see, you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys over 20 minutes or 20 minutes or more. And then 2 guys with 10 or more, which puts you about 7. So, you're looking at, that 7 to 9 guys that you want to try to see, well, which group works the best together? What kind of, substitutions do I want to do? That type of thing. And so it could have had more to do with, like you said, getting Ewan involved and playing him more, knowing, hey, Pringle's probably going to be our, starter consistently, but let's see what, Ewing can do. Let's give him some extra playing time.
Right. And that's probably the case. But I think that watching Ewan though, like I think that he is. I think he struggled a little bit scoring wise, like being in that type of score that he was at Florida State. But that point center aspect of him, the guy who they can run an offense through him. You kind of saw a little bit of that against Cincinnati.
Right. You saw him bring up the ball a few times, some no-look, really good passes from him.
Right. And I mean, you kind of having someone like that too is a great thing. Plus, he's a good defender. So if you can have someone you can run the offense through multiple different people, plus he's a good defender, heck yeah, dude. Like I don't know why you wouldn't have him on there more. I think Pringle was a little bit better scorer than Malik Ewan, but having that aspect of being able to run the offense through you is very, very very good.
Right. And how nice was it too to also see, us down in the post battling and getting rebounds. Like
boxing out.
Right. With Brazil getting down in there, Pringle, Ewan, Malik Thomas led all rebounders with 7. So he's in there getting rebounds. It gives you a very different feel than last year. And, good point by him just saying, he said Samito is the wild card that could just put us over the top this season. If he develops to give us an extra front court depth, it would make us a legit Final Four contender. And, we're saying that, and we didn't even see him yesterday. The only really guy that we saw yesterday was Elmer Zafic. And, that was near the end of the game, just getting some, I hate to call them trash minutes, but kind of, end of the game, getting him some reps and some experience. We'll need to see a true skyscraper at some point this season. So,
I was a little disappointed you didn't see some more guys a little bit sooner. Like I said, that's one of the reasons why I think he played this game like he would have, or he coached this game like he would have coached any other game in the regular season. Because you didn't see those guys get any. I mean, like the last 3.5 minutes, I think.
Right.
So yeah, it was a little disappointing not to see a whole lot of guys go out there. At the same time, they did seem like they pulled it off toward 10 minutes or so through in the second half. Just so it didn't get out of hand, because I mean, like, beating them by 30 is enough. You don't need to beat them by 40.
Right.
So that's why I was surprised he didn't put anybody out there a little bit sooner.
Yeah. And the one thing to watch, and again, this is the first game of the season, not even an official game, it's an exhibition game, is, you saw 3 guys get into foul trouble. You had Knox, Pringle, and Sealy all with 4 fouls in this game. So that's something to keep an eye on, how aggressive are these guys going to be. And again, first game of the season, you got to get into rhythm of things. And so, again, we're analyzing, but trying not to overanalyze, but it's also hard not to get excited about this team after what we watched on Friday night. Like, this team came out, looked like a team that wouldn't take care of business. They did. You win, to Austin's point. You win by 28, so nearly 30 points. You got a game on tap for Monday against Memphis on the road, where you can, see what this team is going to look like as they go on the road and take on opponents. And hey, I'm just excited. This is what we needed after, the trajectory football's been on, to see the hype for this basketball team. Knock on wood, you have health, everybody stays healthy. You play through some rotation. Acuff and Thomas are just going to get better. This was game 1 of their collegiate career, and you put an asterisk by game 1 because it's not even truly an official game of the season yet. So, Steve-O says Acuff looks legit 100%. And I didn't realize, I was listening to a little bit of the commentary. They were talking about how, in school and stuff, Acuff's dad had him play up 2, 3, 4 grades at a time all the time, just because he knew he was that good and prepping him for, this moment, if you will. Because to me, you saw at times he looked like a freshman, but for the most part, he doesn't look like he performed like a freshman, and physically, he doesn't look like a freshman.
Yeah. I would say I don't think I saw a freshman moment out of him at all, really. I mean, like Malik Thomas, you saw a few of those. Taking like some ill-advised shots, in transition, and he's kind of like off balance. Like those are coachable. And I think they even talked about it in the broadcast, saying, hey, you'd rather have somebody that you need to pull the reins on rather than get the whip out.
Right.
So yeah, like, and that's good. Like you want somebody who's willing to take those shots. And let's be clear, Malik Thomas is not afraid to just throw one up there, right? Him with that quick release and everything, he's got the confidence of someone who's played in college for 5 years.
Right. And that's the thing that was crazy too, is, just how quick his release is, especially when he gets kicked out to him on, out on the wing or in the corner or something. It's like the ball barely touches his hand when he catches the pass before it's released. And, it's such a smooth shot as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think both of those two freshmen do not look like freshmen. Like you said, they have freshman moments, but man, it's intense how good they are.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and
I think
go ahead.
I think having those freshman dudes complimenting the guys that came back, I mean, it's a recipe for success.
Right.
It really is.
And it's like you're gonna have days where, like, you look at DJ Wagner's stat line, it's not gonna pop out and just go, "Wow, that's an experienced guy." He only put up 2 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 steal. But I mean, he just looked like he's a leader out there on the court, leading these guys. Maybe he didn't put up the points this game, but there's going to be a handful of games. We saw it last year where it's going to kind of be a DJ game where he takes over and he just balls out. I think this game they were more focused about, getting some of these younger guys and these other guys involved in the game, where, it wasn't going to be an overly intense game for DJ Wagner, I guess is the way to put it. And I'm just saying, says here, and I agree, he thinks Ewan might still be adjusting the intensity level that it takes in the SEC. And I mean, that's what you're going to see with Cal in practice, that these guys are, they talked about over the broadcast how much conditioning these guys have, because they're going to make sure this team's in shape and ready to go. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's an exciting time, especially, and we really need, as a fan base, Arkansas really needed this. They really needed some kind of positive stuff to go along with what's happening in the football season. And John Calipari and the Hardwood Hawgs came through with it. Man, I haven't been this excited for basketball in a very, very long time.
Right. It was like that nice kind of shot in the arm that you needed after, what we've had to endure this football season. So as we kind of get ready to wrap up here, quick update on our Pick'em challenge. We didn't get to hear your picks this week, Austin, but
they were trash. So,
I was about to say an update on our Pick'em is I'm sitting at first at 55-35, Hobbs 51-39, and Austin, you're at 45-45 at 500.
Yeah, woohoo.
Hey, it's okay. Just got to go opposite of me and Hobbs the rest of the season to try to make a comeback.
Yeah, probably.
But
probably not going to happen. But it is what it is.
Right. So, exciting things. Basketball is back. It'll be officially back November 3rd, but you got another exhibition game tomorrow night at Memphis. And so that's going to be fun to watch. Football against Mississippi State. It's whatever. I mean, that's the point we're at this season. So,
yeah.
I think more intensely, people are just going to be ready to see what Arkansas does coaching wise. That they're the season for the most part's over with. So,
Right.
but with that, we'll get ready to wrap up here. You got anything else before we decide to get out of here?
No, I'm in. I think I'm all out of talking.
I agree. It's been one half good weekend, half bad. At least you've got Arkansas basketball coming back to give you some hope and something to watch. So tomorrow night, exhibition game. It's going to be televised on ESPNU, and then we'll have football Saturday. That's about it. So,
Yeah.
With that, we're going to get out of here. We'll be back on Thursday for our regularly scheduled show. We'll talk about the exhibition game in Memphis. We'll preview the game against Mississippi State. And any other updates we get between now and then, we'll let you know, whether we hear some updates on the coaching search or whatever it may be. We'll keep you updated on that. And so for Austin and myself, we're going to get out of here. And everybody have a great beginning of your week, and we'll see you on Thursday.